Well, hello there and welcome. This is Aurora with the Central Coast Astronomical Society. Welcome to our virtual stargazing session tonight. I know we're on a couple of minutes early, but that's just because I have fun information to share with you. So if this is your first time joining us, I want to extend a special welcome to you. By the end of our presentation, we should be going for about 45 minutes max for tonight. By the end of our talk, we're just going to talk about some really cool things you can look at. You're going to be able to go outside, look up, know what you're looking at, know where to find it. You'll be able to share it with your friends as well. And I just realized I have my computer glasses on, which means you're all blurry right now. So here we go. Let's try this again. Hi. So in order to get the most out of tonight, one of the things we do recommend is that you download the free evening sky map. It's available for free at skymaps.com. And then I think if somebody wants to type it in, if they haven't already, that would be fantastic. And you can just download it for free for your hemisphere. If you're north of the equator, obviously you're the northern hemisphere. Okay, and then what's really cool about this is on the other side is all the objects that are listed. So if you don't have binoculars or a telescope, you can look at all these objects just with the naked eye. And then if you do have binoculars, just regular old 7x50s or 10x50s work great. You can see 2/3 of these objects just with the naked eye, and then or binoculars. And the last third down here, 1/4 to 1/3, is the telescope objects. And so this changes every month, and we're going to be going through this. So if you have your handout, you can go ahead, and if you have this right now, you can print it out, because I'm going to write on mine and you'll be able to see where some of these objects are that we are going to be highlighting for tonight. And as a special treat for tonight, we also have some astrophotography images that members have shared, so I'm going to get to share those with you as well. You also get to learn about a NASA mission, so we have a lot to go over in our time together, and this is in addition to the fun stuff we get to do. All right, so it looks like we're coming up on the top of the hour. We're going to start. So before we do our official start, if you want to let me know where you are located on the planet, that makes this conversation go a whole lot easier. We can make recommendations based on where you are, and if you have questions, you're going to type them in the box, because we have astronomers on with us that will be able to answer the questions that you type in. So even if I don't answer them out loud, you'll get an answer in the chat box, which is also really fun. All right, let's do our official start. You guys ready? Yay! Okay, hello and welcome, everyone. This is the Central Coast Astronomical Society, and my name is Aurora. I'm the current president of the Astronomical Society. Our job is to share the fun starry skies with you, and by the end of our conversation tonight, you will be able to go outside, know where to look, and know what you're looking at in enough detail that you'll be able to share it with someone else. So also joining me today is Brian. Hey, Brian.
Yes, hi Aurora. Hi everybody. Thanks for joining us. And
Yes.
I'm happy to be here.
Excellent. Now, normally Brian has his telescope and he's usually bundled up and you don't even you see just eyeballs. And he's outside with his telescope. But Brian, tell us what happened with the weather.
Yeah, this has been the trend lately with our virtual stargazings, is that the weather just doesn't cooperate. I either have winds so strong that it's not safe for my equipment, or I have rain. And as anyone who's been watching the news, Southern California rain has been in the news worldwide even. And we're fine here, but there's still a chance today. So I didn't want my telescope to be rained on, so we'll be working very virtual today on showing images that are already on the computer.
Excellent. Well, thank you. And by the way, the images we're sharing with you are real. They aren't photographs. Oh, no, they are photographs. They're not like artistic drawings or renditions of anything.
Right.
They're actual photographs that our astronomers and our members have taken in addition to Brian. So yay. All right. So to get started, those of you who have been around the block before, you know the drill. We are going to point out the objects that are on the evening sky map. You can download it from skymaps.com. Download it for your hemisphere. And then after Brian would normally slew his telescope, but he's going to share some images and talk about the images. And then I will come on and I will share with you where to find it in the night sky using another program. It's planetarium software called Stellarium, and you can get both these things that I've mentioned free. on the internet. Isn't technology awesome? So you can get all these things. So again, if you do have questions as we go through, type it in. We do have astronomers monitoring the chat that are able to answer your questions. Do let us know where you are on the planet so we can also kind of get a fix on where you are so we can talk about stuff that's in your night sky as well. All right, Brian, would you like to start us off with the first object?
Yes, I would. Let's go ahead and dig right in.
Okay.
Our first one is going to be one of my favorite objects ever, and that is M42, the Great Nebula in Orion. So we'll go ahead and share. We're working, reminder, with a program called Telescopius, and this is actually a free website at telescopius.com. And what it does is it allows us to simulate the view that we would have through different kinds of equipment, whether it's binoculars, telescope, or even your camera. So this is an estimate of the size we would expect to see the Orion Nebula through a pair of binoculars. And then I'll switch over then to show you what it would look like in a common telescope. Now, I'm going to just double check here. Yeah, I've set this up to simulate what you would see in a 8-inch telescope. And if you're aware or familiar with eyepieces, this would be about a 25 millimeter eyepiece. Now, one thing I do want to point out is because these simulations are built from cameras, then they're not representing what we would actually see with our own eyeballs. Speaking of eyeballs, Orion Nebula actually is a naked eye object. Aurora is going to show you how to find it. And if you have clear skies where you are, then after this is over and it's still winter when you're watching this, then you can actually go and see a fuzzy spot right there in the middle of what appears to be Orion's sword. And that is the Orion Nebula. This is a star-forming region that's only 1,500 light years away. I say only, so when we're talking about distances in space, that's just our own backyard. I mentioned it can be seen naked eye, so that also means this is an excellent binocular object. Now you'll see often you can even make out a pretty good shape in binoculars, but then of course when you throw a telescope on it, it becomes quite an amazing view. Now, one of the neat things, while this is a star-forming region, there are not just stars there, so to speak, anymore. Of course, there's a lot of dust. But just last year, October of 2023, the website Universe Today announced that the James Webb Space Telescope has revealed 540 objects that are planet size. And they've found them in the Orion Nebula and the trapezium cluster. This picture isn't showing the trapezium, but there's actually a small group of stars right within the core. And I'll actually show you my picture. You can make out trapezium in my picture. But I think it's pretty amazing. So not only is it a place where we have all these amazing stars, by the way, many of them are hidden by the gas and the dust of the nebula itself. But then now we've got planets probably. And what's interesting is the planets that are in this particular inventory don't seem to be associated with the star. And you may have heard this term, but there's a new term out these days, which is rogue planets. And that means it's a planet that is not actually orbiting a star. So they think most of these are actually planetary mass objects not orbiting a star, just roaming around the area. Have you heard about that, Aurora?
I
These
have. Yeah, and actually when we do astronomy with kids, they just get the biggest kick out of that. Like, what do you mean they're planets
Yes.
that don't go? You just like look at it. But then we also talk about how they're really hard to detect because they don't give off light. And you don't
Yes.
expect they're coming. They're very difficult. They're small compared to stars. It's like, woo, there it is. Nope, there it goes.
Yes. And I think that's and of course, every day is more amazing news about the James Webb Space Telescope. But when we think about how that telescope is designed to see in the infrared range of light, infrared can actually pass through a lot of this gas and dust. And that's what has allowed them to detect these objects behind all of this. Now, this is an image that I captured of the James Webb excuse me, of the Orion Nebula back in 2021. And and then by the way, associated with it here to the left is what's called the Running Man Nebula. But if you look, almost if you think of this, it's almost like I think of sometimes like it's half of a clamshell, but then down right here in the base where you see the glow, there's some speckling of some stars in a little group. That's what's called the trapezium. And you can actually make that out in telescope with proper magnification. So one of the, by the way, the Orion constellation is an amazing region of the sky because there's actually nebulosity throughout. In other words, cloudy wisps throughout that entire border of the constellation. And you'll see people who will do landscape photography where they can capture the large view of the constellation, and you can start to see how many different regions of nebulosity there actually are. So is this one? I'm wondering, Aurora, would you chalk up Messier 42 up in your favorites?
Oh, yes, absolutely. And in fact, it's one of the first that we teach, well, if it's up,
Mm.
for the
Oh,
students.
yes, right.
Right, because we run mini Messier marathons. Try to say that 3 times fast.
No, thank you.
So this is one of the first objects they find because it's such an easy one for them to get a fix on because Orion is so prominent.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, definitely.
Excellent.
And I see a lot of people
Awesome.
saying, yes, this is my favorite too.
Yes, definitely. So did you want to show where
Oh,
they can actually go and find
yeah,
this
let
one?
me do that now. All right. So for those of you who, oh, look at that. It's like it just happens to be right here.
Ta-da! Right there.
Ta-da! Right? You just go outside and look up. All right. So normally you walk outside, you see dots, right? And especially if you're not familiar with patterns, it can be really difficult. Right now, Orion is a winter constellation. So what you want to do in the northern hemisphere, you walk outside and look south and then look straight up. And Orion is really easy to spot because it's got those 3 bright belt stars. The middle star in that belt, you just drop down and you'll see three in the sword. So it'll kind of look like this. And then as you zoom in on that middle star in that sword region, you'll start to see a greenish, grayish smudge. It will not look this beautiful. As Brian had said, your eyes are not tuned the same way cameras are. So you'll be able to just see a little smudge here. And this is a great one to start with a naked eye, and then so you're looking at it naked eye, and then to put binoculars on it, and it gets a little bit nicer. And then you go over to a telescope, and it gets, depending on your telescope, it can be amazing, and depending on your seeing conditions, as long as it's nice and clear, you'll be able to see just. Uh, it's just so pretty. You should go look. So let's go look on your sky maps chart for those of you who have it. What you want to do is I've zoomed in here so we can take a look at it. You see the way this is meant to be used is you put it over your head and you align the directions. So this one says south, this one says east, and then you're all lined up. And then what you want to do is, for us, we're looking south. Okay, so we're going to go outside, look south, and we're going to point our nose up and start to tilt our head up, up, up. And then the first thing you'll probably see are these 3 belt stars. And that's where you want to look. You're going to drop down, and it even says on your map M42. So it's right there that you want to look. And I'm wondering if no, I think that's probably zoomed in enough. That's the first one we're going to be looking at, and it's such a great one to take a look at. All right, Brian, this is probably the
Yes.
easiest one I ever have to
Yes,
point out.
I agree. Right. You know what? One of the interesting things for me with the constellation Orion, really, earlier in the year when it's rising as it's getting dark, it it becomes so mind-boggling how really big that constellation is when you see it close to the horizon.
Oh,
So
so
this
big.
is that's why doing outreaches during the winter is so easy when we have Orion up. No problem. We've got great objects to show.
We do. Let
So,
me
yeah.
before you continue, just real quick for those of a little bit more veteran, those of you who are familiar with Orion, you can see Orion here. If you zoom out a little bit and look at a bigger piece of the sky, you'll notice that the foot of Orion, Rigel here, is one of the 6 stars that makes up the winter hexagon. And so we're going to be looking a little beyond the hexagon tonight as well. But this is also a great way to take a look at some constellations simply by trying to outline that hexagon. All right.
Yes. Yes. Glad you brought that up. That's a good the navigation tool for finding your way around in the winter, for
Hmm.
sure. Yeah. So for our next object, we're going to stay in the constellation Orion. And the object I'm actually sharing is next to what was my favorite object growing up when I had posters of it. And so I would have posters of the Horsehead Nebula. And then when I was in high school, I actually had a chance to go out and look through a telescope. And I would declare, I want to see the Horsehead Nebula. And the astronomers there kind of said, well, good luck with that. So this object, I want you to be aware that they are here. It is the Horsehead Nebula and then the Flame Nebula. But unless you have amazingly ridiculous, pristine conditions, we would not expect to see the horse head at all. And you in a big telescope in wonderful conditions, you might see a little bit of the flame. But here's the region, and this would be a binocular view. Now you'll notice these three stars, and then you may notice from this view looking down, right? Yes, indeed, there is the Orion Nebula right there, kind of in the bottom of the frame. And the Horsehead Nebula and the Flame are associated with Alnitak, or Alnitak, probably is how it's pronounced, which we would consider from our view, the leftmost star in Orion's belt. But let's give you the eyepiece view. So here's the Flame Nebula, and then we have Alnitak, and then the Horsehead, of course, is off the view. The flame is called an emission nebula, which explains how it's putting off light. But the energy for it to be able to put off that light is actually coming from Alnitak. So, in other words, this star that you see in the field is generating ultraviolet light, and it's exciting the hydrogen and other gases that are in the flame nebula, causing it to glow. But it's not glowing quite bright enough for us to make out easily. And it is about 900 to 1,500 light years away, according to the documentation I found. And you could see, too, when you start to look at images, this is quite a contrast in appearance to the Horsehead Nebula. And the Horsehead Nebula is called a dark nebula. The reason it's called that is because it's actually really highlighted by the uh, let's see, trying to change my view here, my PowerPoint, but it's highlighted by the actual dark regions that are visible. So, in other words, the Horsehead itself is technically uh, dust, and it's blocking a star forming region behind it. So, we get this neat glow of red within what appears to be the silhouette of almost seems more like a seahorse to me than a land horse, so to
It
speak.
does.
But I find it really neat that we have these two objects that look amazing in pictures, and it's one of those where if we go to telescope. Now, Aurora, have you ever been in conditions where you're able to make out these
Nope, not at
in,
all. Well,
in session?
I should take that back. Yes, but I found it really hard to see, even with the great big
Mhm.
telescopes, unless we have, something like if you, it's just so much easier to photograph.
Yes, that's for sure. In fact, I was pleased, Aurora, when I did the picture of the Orion constellation for your book.
Hmm.
In that image, I was able to just barely show you can see the flame nebula in
Yeah,
that image.
yeah, that's
So it's very
awesome.
nice. David Majors on the chat is one of our other club members is sharing that he's actually seen the flame in a 12-inch scope.
Really?
So that must have, I wonder if that was out at our Star Party locations. That would be pretty
Maybe.
nice to see.
Yeah, Dave, were you out at Navajo Flats, or tell us where you were? I want to say that yes, Kent has shown it to me. I just don't remember because I'm blown away by everything else he shows.
Yes, right. Yeah, it's definitely not one that we would use in an outreach, right?
Mm-mm.
Like, no, really, it's there.
Awesome. Okay, great.
All right.
This one is so easy to find. Do you want me to show people where it is?
Well, I guess maybe if we could just kind of point out from that larger view might be handy
Okay.
to share, and then we'll go ahead and give our little talk about the NASA mission that we are going to share.
From Stellarium, do you mean?
No, yeah, I mean, do you want to just show a view in Stellarium, just
Yes.
pointing out where we were looking? I
Yeah,
guess, yeah.
exactly. Let me do that. And there we go. Okay, so Orion, can you find it? Look for three belt stars. Excellent. So this is the Orion Nebula we had just talked about, M42. And then you see the three stars. If you just look at this star right here, and if you do this and you go to the other star, they're just, well, it'll be easy. It'll be obvious. Like, wow, that's really nothing there. So you go to this star, and you're already seeing the horse head here and the flame. And it's really simple to find. Being able to see it, though, is a whole nother game. And yeah, so I feel like I don't have much of a job today because it's just like, look at the
Right.
stars.
Yes. Especially compared to what I've done to you in previous shows where I pick these that you need to star hop.
Like do this triple star hop and then come back a little
Yes.
and then yes, no, not today. Today is easy. So awesome. So what you got there, Brian?
So, we're going to talk for a moment about perseverance and ingenuity. So, perseverance is our most current Mars rover. That's Big Brother there. And that rover actually launched with its helicopter payload on July 30th of 2020. It's odd for me to think about that we're now working on almost 4 years now that it's been on Mars. But with the rover, we actually do have the little tiny helicopter Ingenuity, and that first took flight on April 19th, 2021. So Ingenuity actually has now reached end of mission, and I wanted to then, because we're not going to be seeing any new flights, I thought it'd be nice to give you a little summary and then encourage you to go learn more about this amazing helicopter. The Ingenuity helicopter is the first aircraft to fly, with under its own power on another planet. Of course, we've had landers, but we have not had anything take off from another planet, and the Ingenuity helicopter is the first to do that. I included this image. Oh, in fact, I need to advance it on the slideshow there. In this image, I show you how you can see how big it really is compared to a person. This was not a small little hold in your hand.
Wow.
I'm sure they did not bring this home and try to fly it around their living room. But this Ingenuity helicopter was a proof of concept. They're like, I wonder if we can, that was their thinking. I wonder if we can get something to fly under its own power through the air on Mars. And the answer is yes. And what they were just hoping to get a flight out of has, according to NASA, has had a total of 128.8 minutes of flying. It covered 10 and a half miles or 17 kilometers
Ugh.
and then reached altitudes as high as 78.7 feet or 24 meters. So not too shabby.
Wow.
Um, by the way, in case you're wondering, folks, why it has two rotors, well, if you think about with a helicopter, you notice how it has a main rotor on top, or a classic helicopter, and then there's that little rotor on the tail. That's to prevent the helicopter from just spinning around in a circle.
Mm-hmm.
Well, with this helicopter, and we're seeing this now with many drones, these are counter-rotating blades. So they're spinning opposite directions, which helps it maintain balance. And then they can actually adjust that rotation if it needs to turn its body from side to side. So now that they have flown an aircraft like this on another planet, it's really looking like the Ingenuity helicopter has changed space travel forever. On January 25th, right now of this year, we're here on February 9th, 2024. NASA announced that Ingenuity is no longer capable of flight. It actually did have damage to its rotors, and from what they've gathered, it's done. It's going to sit where it is. And of course, I've already seen some forum posts saying, "What would it take to bring Ingenuity home?"
Mm.
But I don't think we're going to get anyone to foot that bill. But this helicopter now, pretty much any advocates for future missions, they want to see an aircraft. It turned out to be very valuable for it to fly up and ahead to scope out what the actual rover that had to drive would encounter when it got there. So if you'd like to know more about the Mars rover itself, Perseverance or Ingenuity, you can go to mars.nasa.gov and they have so much footage from Ingenuity. You can show them unloading from the main rover and you can see some of the flights. So I definitely encourage you to go and see that after our show.
That's just mind blowing because, you know, Mars doesn't have a huge atmosphere, but yet we're flying around. That's just
Yes.
amazing.
Yes, I agree. It is very amazing. And that's one of the things that's neat with the various NASA facilities is they have chambers, I believe, right, where they can simulate the density of atmospheres.
Yeah.
So they tested this in the same density, but you never really know for sure until you get it in that actual environment. And
Right, because
they've done it now.
it is just still a simulation. It's not the actual thing. So,
Right. Yes,
yes.
indeed.
You're like, I didn't know about,
Awesome.
oh, I didn't think about that.
Yes.
No, we've
All right.
never been there before. All right, so
No.
excellent.
Yeah. So I'm just checking for questions. I don't see any new questions. Oh, so David mentioned when he had seen the flame, it was at a KOA campground at one of the club star parties.
Ah, got it. All right,
So,
Dave. Well, next
all
time I
right.
come, I'm expecting that from you because you've got a 12-inch dog. Yes, is that right?
Yes. All right. Awesome. Well,
Okay,
should we go to the next
let's
object?
do it.
Okay, awesome. Up next on our tour is going to be a binocular, definitely a binocular object. And so, in fact, I'll switch over to a binocular view here. So this is called the double cluster in Perseus. And I found if most people, if you mention the double cluster, this is where they're going to go in the night sky. So it is gee, double. It's two open clusters that are visible to the naked eye. And here you can see on the screen right now would be the simulated binocular view. So it's definitely a nice binocular object. Keep in mind, as I've mentioned before, you're not going to see these regions of cloudiness or nebulosity is the other term. This is visible just in photographs. But the purpose of Telescopius is to help us understand a general idea of the size. When you throw a telescope on the double cluster, depending on the size of your telescope and your magnification, you might be zooming in where it just seems like some bright stars and you're not even really able to make out the concept of a cluster. So really we kind of think of this as a binocular object. This one is so far the farthest away from what we've talked about at about 7,500 light years away. This is one of those objects that has been understood or known about since antiquity. We can go all the way back to 130 BC
Whoa,
to Hipparchus. And he documented this as a patch of light in Perseus. So it's been around a while as something that's been understood.
that's
And
amazing.
yes, yes, I agree. And so it's estimated to be about 300 to 400 stars in each of these clusters, by the way. So it's definitely a really nice object to go after, and it's a good starter object.
Yeah, and it's
So,
obvious when you look at it too. So,
mhm,
like, hey,
mhm.
there's something there, and it's not just right. It's so, and I like it because it's also
Yeah.
just not. After you look at a lot of nebulas, you're like, yeah, it's another fuzzy, another fuzzy. This one has the grouping, which is just so pretty to look at.
Yes, I agree.
Let's. Do you want me to show on Stellarium? Are you ready?
Yes, let's do
Okay.
that. That'd be good.
Great. All right. So we have, I actually have highlighted here because I wanted to show you something. Here's Orion, which you can see with the three belt stars over here. And then if we take those three belt stars and we connect them and extend the line, we'll wind up in the constellation of Taurus the Bull. If I turn on the pictures, you can kind of see there's a bull there with horns. All right, and then we're going to continue going, and then we'll land in Perseus, in the constellation of Perseus. So the way I'd like to find this one is Perseus has it actually has two really nice stars that are nice and bright. And we also have Cassiopeia, which is really easy to find because there's five bright stars that form this WM shape. And if we take a look at that smaller triangle and this bright star right in here, at that intersection, we go about halfway through, you can actually find exactly what you were showing us. We can find the double cluster. So let's do it now without all the sticks and the connect the dots fun happening here. All right, so let's go back. We're walking outside and we're looking for Orion. Okay, you can find Orion here with the 3. By the way, this little cluster right here, we're not going to talk about it tonight, but this is not the Little Dipper. You can tell because there's no Big Dipper next to it. So that's one that often gets mistaken, the Pleiades. All right, so we have the big Orion constellation. We've got the 3 here, and we can connect the lines. We can see the V of Taurus the Bull right in this region in here. All right, and this is kind of just orienting ourselves in the night sky before we actually start looking for stuff with optics. And then we look a little bit further, we continue that line, and we can see there's 2 bright stars here in Perseus. And we also see Cassiopeia, which is down here. Okay, so I've got the smaller triangle, and then I've got this 2 bright stars. I'm going to take the one that's closer to the triangle and go about halfway in between. And if I zoom in, can you see it? Hey, look at that. We were able to find it. All right, and on your paper chart, let's take a look and see where that might be. Okay, so, oh, I didn't mark where the other one was. So this was M42, the first thing we found, the Orion Nebula, and then the flame was the leftmost belt star there. Okay, so what we were just talking about is you take the 3 from Orion and you go straight across, and we're going to find the V of Taurus the Bull. Okay, and we're just going to continue on, and that'll land us in the constellation of Perseus, which is right here. Perseus has those bright stars. Okay, and then we also see we've got Cassiopeia, which is here. So we're going to look right for the smaller triangle, okay, and then this bright star here, and we find our double cluster. And it's actually written right on your chart as double cluster, right there. All right, Brian, how was that?
Yes, excellent.
Okay.
That's what I like the double cluster and really with the Orion Nebula as you're helping students or anyone really learn how to use binoculars is like you see that there point and then you can just have them point the binoculars instead of helping them find the general area.
Yeah, and being able to get yourself oriented too. And if you've never used binoculars in the night sky, there's nothing magic about astronomy binoculars other than you don't want them too heavy because you're going to be doing this most of the time and it can be hard on your neck. But the other thing is just being able to use them, looking at something, not the full moon, but looking at the moon when it's like less than half full, so a quarter moon or smaller, can be really useful to get you to see
Yes.
how you look at things. So the idea is that you would look at the moon and then you'd bring the binoculars up to your face. And I know for me, I point too low. And so you'll just kind of see what you naturally do. And then I know to bump it up just a little bit and boom, then I'm there. So practice on something that's big, that's
Yes.
easy for you to find, like the moon. So the full moon's going to be too bright, just in case you're wondering. You'll look at it and you'll go, ow! So start with something easy. You can even start in the daytime. You want to be looking at something like, like trees or something like that. And you kind of look and then just bring it up to your face without really looking at the binoculars. And you'll get a better feel for that. Okay.
Just not the sun.
No, not the sun.
Right.
Like the moon is too bright. What do you think is
Yes.
going to happen about the sun?
Yes, very good point.
Thank you for bringing that up.
You're welcome.
So
Like Aurora told us to go and look at things during daylight. So,
the sun is easy to find. No, don't be doing. So you know that thing you do with the kid when you're a kid, like you use a magnifying glass and you use that and you focus the sun's rays on like a dead leaf or something, and hopefully
Right.
you catch it on fire. So that happens to the back of your eyeball. So
right, yes.
that's
Yeah,
not what we're going
That would be
for.
bad.
That would be bad. We're not doing that, and we're not catching leaves on fire because we want you to be around longer so you can do more astronomy. Okay.
Yes, very true. Well, Aurora, you were just sharing how there's some objects that are more difficult to find than others.
Yeah.
So, speaking of objects that are more difficult to find, let's go to our final object of the evening. This is a beautiful photography image or photography object, I should say, and one you can see in a telescope, but it's not going to be anywhere near what's compared to, in an image. So the Rosette Nebula is in Monoceros or Monoceros. I guess it's like a potato type situation there, but also known as the unicorn. It's thought to contain enough gas and dust to make 10,000 stars like our sun. So
Whoa.
this is a very large region of space with a great amount of dust and gas, but it's spread over quite a large area. It's thought to be about 65 light years in radius. Right, so if we stop and think about that, if we're at one end and shined a flashlight, it would take 65 years for that photon to make it to the other side of this region. It's actually so big, it has one, two, three, four, five, six designations.
Whoa.
Oftentimes, an object will have an NGC number, which stands for New General Catalog.
Mhm.
And we'll often call this NGC 2237 because that describes the entire nebula. But then there are other smaller regions within that have their own numbers. This thing's so big.
Wow.
And not only do you get a nice giant nebula, you actually get an open cluster with this. There's an open cluster right in the center. And I'll actually move over. I'm not even going to show you the binocular view. This one's faint in telescopes.
Hmm.
So in binoculars, really, we're going to see stars as far as what I've ever seen. What do you think, Aurora? Have you ever seen this in a telescope?
Yes, I have. Well, I've seen parts of it. It's big.
Oh yes, yes, parts of it. Yes.
But yeah, the telescopes that tend to pick it up tend to be larger. So, but yeah. And it looks like you have a photograph.
Yeah, so this is my image that I've captured of the rosette. Now, I want to point out that the telescope I used with this is really primarily intended for visual, not astrophotography. So it doesn't focus blue as well as the other colors, and that's why all the stars have that glow. So we would not expect to see that glow like this.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so this is an image of the Rosette Nebula. What's really fun to notice is it's so complex because we have these emission regions where it's actually putting off light, but then there's darker regions where it's a dark nebula where the dust is blocking it in these tendrils and twisties. So it really kind of reminds me of some kind of cinnamon roll or something that's been unfurling.
You're going to make me
And
hungry.
then, of course, yes. Then, of course, we have that open cluster right in the middle. So I would point out, I suppose I should say that if you look at a telescope, that's what you want to head for is that open cluster. And that's going to help you know, okay, I'm there now. And then you can start to look around and you definitely want to be dark adapted. So in other words, we wouldn't want our eyeballs to have any light from a phone or anything in at least 20 minutes, and that gives you your best chance of seeing something with this.
Nice.
So
All
awesome.
right. Well, let's take a look at where this is. So oh, sorry. 14-inch telescope there, Dave. Not 12. I apologize. That the extra two
Oh
inches of
no. Did you
aperture.
under?
I undersized your telescope. I apologize. So 14 inches. Yes. Okay. All right. So let's go over here. So we see the Orion Nebula, see the three belt stars. And before we were looking over here, and we've been talking about Taurus a little bit, and we were looking at Perseus. Now we're going to go the other way. So I've highlighted it here. And this is actually the unicorn. And you can see it here for Monoceros. You can kind of think of rhinoceros, Monoceros, and it's right where his nose is. But I don't know about you, but it doesn't look much like a unicorn. So what we're going to do is we are going to spot the three belt stars, and then this isn't a whole big constellation, like it's just two stars, but it does have this. It's got two really bright stars. Okay, and there's a couple of stars here, and it's really just partway, about almost halfway in between the belt and Canis Minor. So, and you really have to go looking for this one because it doesn't have any bright stars that are too nearby. You've got this one, but really, and as you were saying, you can see it here. And there's a lot of different objects in this. In fact, on your handout, it doesn't actually have the number that Brian told you. It's got a bunch of other numbers like the ones he was mentioning before. So if we go to our handout, again, this is from skymaps.com. So this is the Orion Nebula. And then we've got the belt stars here. Okay, and then we're going to look for Canis Minor, which has a nice big star, Procyon here. This is part of the winter triangle, or not triangle, had a different shape, winter hexagon I had pointed out in the beginning. Okay, so Procyon is over here. And about partway in between, this is where you're going to find it, right in here. And there's a couple of numbers you have that are different, but that are included. So 2264, 2244, it's all right in there. Okay.
Yes, I figured if I listed all of them, we'd be here for another half hour.
No, that's fine. No, that's totally fine. And before we close out, I was going to tell you a couple of events that we have. Are you interested in learning a little more? Okay, here, Brian, I'm going to throw you back up. So it looks like, I have a friend. Okay, so we had a fantastic meeting. In fact, we had so many people, we had to stop midway and add more chairs because they were milling around outside. And so we had a fantastic meeting, a club meeting that was a presentation from someone that was on the UCLA Galactic team. And she had shared her work that she had done for her research with her colleagues that won the Nobel Prize back in 2020. So that was really exciting. Our next event that we have coming up, we have a couple of them. One of them is we have Stargazing, which is going to be in person. Well, it was supposed to be tomorrow, but I'm not sure how the weather's looking.
The forecast says mostly clear.
Does it? Okay.
So we'll see.
We'll see. I'm going to send you an email tomorrow. So this is a great way to get ready to stargaze with us tomorrow. So if it's happening, I'm going to send you an email. Make sure you check your email box before you come out and see us, just to be sure. And then the next time we're going to meet in person, not stargazing, but doing another meeting with a guest speaker. We actually have a in person, so not streamed, but an actual person that was working on the James Webb Telescope. And he is going to come and present about his work that he did on that telescope, which is going to be super exciting. So I'm really, this is going to be fun. And we've also had several requests for astrophotography guest speakers, and we are working on that for summer. We thought that would be a great one for July. So we're going to put something together for you. So yay.
Wonderful.
Yeah, so we have some fun things that are coming up. For sure. Go ahead.
Oh, I thought I might share something on our website.
Yes.
Actually, for just a moment. So we have a public email list. In other words, we have, of course, our club membership, but we also have an email list that I maintain with over 1,000 members where we actually shared the news about these virtual stargazings in addition to our star parties and other information. So if you'd like to join our public email list, you can go to centralcoastastronomy.org and click on the little email icon right here in the top right corner. And you can subscribe to my Substack. And then that's how we'll actually let you know. That's how we'll send the information about the star party tomorrow. If anything changes, we'll be there. So be sure to subscribe.
Whoop. Yes, and we are staffed entirely by volunteers. So anyway, we do our best to make sure that you guys get the information you need. Guess what we get to do now? You guys want to see some photographs from other members? Yes? All right, Ryan, let's start with you since you are, since you're here. So I have, wait, that's not Brian. This is Brian. There we go. So Brian, where are you in this picture?
So, I'm actually in Riverside at a shopping mall where we were doing outreaches. And so with that, I use what's called an EAA setup, or electronically assisted astronomy. So by using a camera on my telescope and then the computer that you could see somewhat behind me, then I would actually share images of the moon and some other brighter objects right there to people who are just walking around doing their shopping.
Oh,
so it's really fun. That's a Riverside Astronomical Society in Riverside, California. It does this as a monthly outreach.
That's awesome. I would not be shopping. If I saw this, I'd be like, hey, I can shop anytime. Come to, can we see this? Can we see that? Awesome. So Brian, you actually took these pictures.
Yes. And so that's I believe that is M13. up on the top, and then yes, and then the flame that I shared,
Yes,
right?
exactly.
That M13 was actually one of my earlier images, and I'm like, wait just a minute, there's a galaxy in that picture, and so you can see up by the B, yeah, and so that's what's really fun. And by the way, in the Zoom chat, I shared my Astrobin page where I have other images.
Hmm.
And what's fun is you can put your mouse over the image when you're seeing it full view, and that program will highlight all the other objects that are visible
Oh,
within.
that's
So if you
right.
want to look at some others.
That's right. Oh, do you mean in the YouTube chat?
Oh, in the YouTube chat,
Yeah.
yes. Sorry,
Okay,
in the
great.
YouTube chat. My
Perfect. Okay.
Astrobin is like a way to post. It's kind of like the Instagram, I guess, for
Yes,
for
it's Instagram for
astrophotography.
astrophotography, definitely. All right, great. Let's flip through a few more of these. This is from Frank Widman. He sent in these pictures. You can see Frank there with his nice telescope, and he also took a picture of. You remember what this is? The flame and the horse head. Just a little bit different orientation because we turned the photograph so it would fit. And you probably recognize the rosette up here and the double cluster down here. I forgot to label all these. Good. All right, and to our veteran astronomers, bonus points if you can tell me what this is. You have 10 seconds. Put it in the chat if you know what this picture is. This is a picture taken by Frank, and you could tell me either one, or if you know what both of them are. That's great. All right, 3, 2, 1. Brian, I can't see the chat when I'm sharing these, so you get to tell me if anybody won.
Oh, sure, you got it. Yes. So David Major said M81 and 82.
Okay, Dave, you're the kid in class who always raises his hand. So,
Yes, and Jay Garcia also shared.
okay, so, so give other people a chance first. All right, what about this one? I've got another one for you. How about this one? So this is another one from Frank. Okay, I'll give you 10 seconds. Take a good look, and then I'll tell you what it is.
I have a
And
good
you
guess.
have a good guess? We were just in this constellation, but we didn't talk about this at all.
Oh, we were that I don't know what it is.
Oh,
Thought it was Markarian's chain.
I know. That was my first thought too, but nope. Okay, any winners?
David said he's sitting on his hands, so he won't raise his hand.
All right, I've got NGC dun, da, 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 1275, which is the Perseus supercluster. And I've actually never seen this one, so it's on my list now. I have a little journal.
Me too.
Good. All right. Speaking of Dave, you can. All right. These are images from Dave. He's the gotta get a picture in white light of him there. He just took this picture. I think last week. He said this is M1, the Crab Nebula. This is at the top of one of the horns in Taurus. We have a globular cluster M22. And we also have globular cluster M13. M22 is Sagittarius, right? And M13 is in
That's right.
Hercules. Yeah, great. Nice job, Dave. Beautiful pictures. And I also have a new submission. Catherine Hyde I was really pleased to see her pictures. She also has a beautiful telescope setup. You can see it there. And you can see pictures of the double cluster and the rosette. Okay, and then we have the Great Orion Nebula, which is in here, the Horsehead and the Flame. And this is the other part of the Orion. Great job, Catherine. Beautiful. And Catherine also gave me another image. Okay, you ready? All right, you tell me, what do you see in this picture? Ready? 3, 2, 1. All right, everyone should be able to answer at least one of them. You got 10 seconds. Go, go, go. Dave, you can go ahead and answer. Okay, what do you see in this picture? All right, beautiful images. With pictures like this, you just know that there's so much stuff in space. It just feels like it's not empty. All right, and then Brian will let me know if anyone else had given submissions. I don't know if I can see it.
David said he's refraining from answering.
Oh, okay. You can answer, Dave. It's fine. All right, good. All right, this is one that we've seen maybe 3 or 4 times now. This was in the spectral section of
Yeah, Rachel says Rosette Nebula.
Beautiful, yay! Okay, great. We have a few other objects we didn't talk about here. Beautiful. And then Pete is part of the astrophotography group. Those of you who know, who have seen any of these, yeah, he's got a nice big telescope. This is, this roof he put on rails, or this shed, and so he can push it and it encloses the telescope, and then he pushes it back to expose it, to take his pictures. Okay, and he's got Sombrero Galaxy 104. This one's, I think this is the needle, is that right? 4565. And then this is the center rosette. Okay, and
I have to check. I'm actually not sure.
I forget the number. Maybe it's not. Okay, great. And I think that's all the ones that I have. Oh, I have actually Paul Wilson. Let me grab Paul Wilson's stuff. Okay, so Paul Wilson, you can see him there with his Schmidt Cassegrain telescope. His Celestron, I think it's a 14-inch, I think. And you can see we've got a galaxy here. And does anybody know the name of M27? And then this is part of the veil. And then he gave me this picture. Anyone familiar with a picture like this? What did he photograph here? Yeah, isn't that pretty? What did Paul photograph here? Go ahead and tell us in the chat. We're actually almost done. I've only got one more after this. One more photograph.
That's when you go into hyperspace, right? That's the,
yes.
the view.
When your hyperdrive works, right?
Right.
Yes.
Or maybe when it doesn't work. It's spinning.
You're out of control.
Yeah, Jay Garcia says it's stars over time, and George says Polaris over time.
Yay. Beautiful. Exactly. And this is another one from Paul. This is a monochrome, obviously, no color information here, but what did he photograph? This one's, it's interesting when you take the color out, how much more detail you can see. Okay, and I had some details on this one. This is...
I'm actually thinking, I have a guess.
This is a hydrogen filter, actually. Image, and... This one might be a picture from Peter. I've got Peter and Paul's name on it, so I'm sorry. I know one of you took it.
Yeah, David beat me.
Oh, you got it.
Yes, helix, exactly.
Yay!
Yeah. You look for, when you see that one, people often say dumbbell. Or no, excuse me, not dumbbell, ring nebula.
Ring.
But the helix, you'll see those details on the inside that give it that helix name.
Yes. All right, everyone should get this one. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead. I was just saying, then it has that larger, wider wisp of nebulosity that's really nice to see in the hydrogen alpha.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's beautiful. Well, thank you guys for sending these in. I have one last one, and everyone on the planet should get this one. What are we looking at here? Go ahead and type it in. Yes, you too, Dave. All right. What are we looking at here? There was when Los Angeles had their big blackout, I don't remember when, the Griffith Observatory, somebody I knew worked there, he said so many people saw this for the first time, they thought there was a problem. Like, they thought, something was on fire. They thought the world was exploding. They had no idea. That people came up with all kinds of things. Like, they thought it was a UFO creating trails in the, dust trails in the sky as it was crashing on the earth. And people had just not seen it before, just living in a big city. And I think they were dark for, what was it, maybe 2 days? I forget. But it was a long enough time where they just couldn't do anything. So, all right, yay, the Milky Way. Beautiful. All right, we went way longer than 30 minutes.
We did, but we're having fun.
We are having fun. Did you have anything else you wanted to share?
Oh, I think that was it. I just wanted to be sure to share about the email list, and then you talked about our next in-person star party and club meeting. And the club meetings are open to the public too. So if you're in the area of San Luis Obispo, come on down.
Yes, come see us. We would love to see you. And it's neat because it's just we just don't geek out all night. You get to our speakers talk so you can understand what they're saying. And also we have some tables set up from our astronomers, and they share something they're really excited about. Like this past time we had one table that had some solar astronomy equipment, and then and another one was what to get if you're brand new to astronomy. So Glenn had brought in his first telescope and his first eyepieces and had shared that as well. So and we always have cookies. So so that's also a fun way for you to learn and interact with people as well. Okay, great.
Yes, definitely.
Yay. Well, thank you so much for joining us. You now have everything you need to go outside and look up. Your target is Orion. That is your main signpost for tonight. We looked at 4 different objects. You learned about a space mission. I got to share some astrophotography with you. You know about stargazing, which we think is happening tomorrow, but you're checking your email before you come and visit us. And you also know about the next club meeting, which you're invited to as well. And I think that wraps it up. That's a full night.
Yes.
That is a full night. Okay. If you have questions that didn't get answered, let us know. You can simply reach me, myself, Aurora at centralcoastastronomy.org. Brian, you're at Brian at centralcoastastronomy.org as well. And so you're welcome to reach any one of us, and we are happy to answer your questions as well. So thank you so much for being here, and we will see you next time. Bye-bye, everybody.